Christina, and welcome to my first episode on my channel, Let's Get Cooking. So today for my first episode, I kind of just want to go through some of the things that you need for your kitchen. I do want to preface by saying that I am not professionally trained. I've taught myself how to cook. My mom taught me a few things. My mother-in-law taught me a few things. And in general, I've just always had an interest in cooking and baking. And I've done research, watched videos, and tried different things in the kitchen. My mom was a single mother, so I did start cooking at a very young age. When I was about 12, she started showing me how to cook some things so that if me or my brother were hungry, we could have food at home and I could cook it and we would be good. So that's kind of just where it started. And I've continued it as I've gotten older, as I've, started expanding, buying different kitchen gadgets, looking up new recipes, stuff like that. I've just kind of played around with flavors, played around with cooking techniques, and just really tried to see what was best. I have a really good taste tester. My wife, she's very honest. She always lets me know if something is good, if it needs improvement. She's not shy about letting me know the things that I could do differently, which I really appreciate because it's helped me over the years to make sure that I'm preparing food that tastes good, looks good, has a nice flavor to it, and that she wants to keep eating. So, like I said, I want to start off this first episode just by showing some of the things that you kind of need if you're starting off as a new cook. Maybe you've moved out of the house for the first time and you don't have anything in your kitchen, and these are just some of the basic things that you need for your kitchen and to get started cooking. Some of these things are optional. I'll let you know which ones are. Some of these you really should have on hand at all times. But let's get started. So the first thing you need, and the most important thing, is a pan. A big pan, preferably about 8 to 9 inches in diameter. Trust me when I say you're going to want to get a bigger pan. Just because if you're cooking meats, if you're cooking sauces, vegetables, even if you're sauteing, you're going to want the bigger width to saute and cook in. It makes things just so much easier if you have the bigger pan. I know, like at Walmart, you can get sets. You can get everything you need, basically pans, pots, different sizes and everything. But if you can't afford one of the sets, or you're not sure how serious you're going to be about cooking, at least one decent sized pan is going to make a big difference. The next most important thing you're going to need are pots. So I recommend personally getting different size pots. So a small one just for vegetables or oatmeal, grits, that sort of thing. Something small. But if you can only afford one pan, I would say get a bigger size pot. I'm sorry. A bigger size pot. Only because, if you're going to be cooking noodles or soups or something like that, you're going to want the bigger size to be able to, fit all your noodles, fit like a big thing of soup or something like that in there, you're going to need the bigger pan. I mean, the pot. I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep calling this a pan. You're going to need the bigger pot. But if you can get a set or get another one, it definitely helps to have the smaller one. Just because if you're making something small that doesn't take up a lot of space, sometimes you can scorch, sauces in a bigger pan. Because it's not taking up as much space, so it'll start bubbling quickly and it'll end up scorching, or you just won't get the right consistency, that sort of thing. So if you can get the smaller pot, I would recommend it. If you can get one of the sets that they have in one of the different department stores, I would recommend that. But I would say go with the bigger one if you can only afford to get one, definitely. Okay, the next thing, and some of you guys are probably going to be wondering why you need this, but trust me, is a baking sheet. And don't make fun of my baking sheet. It's been through a lot. But I would definitely recommend having a baking sheet just because, like if you're doing chicken or roasting vegetables in the oven or anything like that where you need a flat surface, cooking bread, crescent rolls, refrigerated crescent rolls, it always helps to have a baking sheet in there. I would recommend, again, getting a set that has, a couple of different sizes. But, if you can only get the one, maybe err on the side of judgment and get a bigger one. I love my small one for when I'm baking cookies or something like that. It just comes in handy having a smaller one. But I do have a bigger one that I use for, if I'm making big meals or something like that, where I need to cook a lot in a little bit of time. So rather than putting this in 2 or 3 times, I can just have the big one and put it in 1 time. So definitely a baking sheet. It's not just for bakers. It is for cooks. You do need one. I definitely recommend having a baking sheet on hand. The next thing I would recommend having is a casserole dish. You can get glass, you can get nonstick. I do prefer nonstick just because it's easier cleanup. But you can get glass as well. I have several of both. But I would say probably if you're a new cook, I would recommend definitely starting out with a nonstick casserole dish. Just because, like I said, it's easier cleanup. You don't have to fuss over it as much. You don't have to worry so much about, not being able to clean it properly afterwards. This comes in handy if you're doing casseroles, definitely, but you can also use it for meats like chicken, meatloaf, anything that's going to produce a lot of, for lack of a better word, juice, like chicken wings. If you want a juicier chicken wing, I would recommend putting it in a casserole dish and not on a baking sheet, just because it helps all that liquid that's created. It helps to keep it in there and keep your wings juicier and tender. And it really comes in handy when it comes to keeping meat more tender, as opposed to a baking sheet. If you have it on a baking sheet, it's going to kind of dry out because the juice doesn't really have anywhere to go. It's going to just stay on that flat surface and kind of evaporate with the heat. Like I said, I would definitely recommend a casserole dish for that sort of thing. Plus, like I said, if you are doing a casserole, baked spaghetti, anything like that, you're going to need the deeper pan to hold everything in. So, now if you do not have space for a casserole dish, or you just don't have the money to invest at the moment, you can always get those aluminum disposable casserole dishes that they have at the grocery store. I would say that if you find yourself buying that, like a set, even 3 or 4 of them at a time, multiple times, it's probably best to just go ahead and invest in a casserole dish because, some of them aren't super expensive. If you get the nonstick, it'll last you a while. And it's honestly, like I said, if you're buying it multiple times, especially close to each other, you might as well be investing that same money into buying a casserole dish that's going to last a lot longer. So, something to think about if you don't use it that often or you're not sure whether casseroles are going to be your thing. Just invest in the disposable aluminum ones. Try it out. See what you think. If you enjoy doing it that way, put some money aside and invest in a decent one. So the next thing I would highly advise investing in is a knife set with a block like this. Now, if you can't afford the set, what I would invest in is one really good knife, and they're called chef's knives. And it's got a flat blade like this. I unfortunately do not have one to show you. My last knife set had one, and I got rid of it, and I didn't realize my new one didn't have one. But it's got a flat blade like this. It's a little bit shorter, about maybe this long, and it's a little bit fatter than this. They call it a chef's knife for a reason. You can use it for anything, meat, vegetables. It's easier to handle than a longer knife like this. It's usually the right length to cut through just about anything. Like I said, meats, vegetables, anything like that. So I would definitely, if you cannot afford to get a collection of knives or like a set of knives, I would definitely say at least get a chef's knife. This set comes with, of course, the longer knife. It also has a butcher's knife. This is about the width of a chef's knife. But again, it's shorter, maybe about that length. These, they're too big for me, in my opinion. I don't like handling these big, humongous knives. It's just, I don't know, it freaks me out a little bit. But the smaller ones, the chef's knife, I don't mind. It also comes with a serrated knife. This is for like breads, and see if you can see the serrated part there. Now, you don't want to use something like this for vegetables. I mean, you can if it's the only thing you have, but it's not going to give you the nice, clean cuts of a flat blade. This is more for, I wouldn't even really recommend it for meats. I would say this is more for breads, that sort of thing. You can use it for anything you want. It's just not going to give you the clean cut that you want because it's meant more for like a sawing motion. So keep that in mind. But it was included in the set. Okay, this knife you'll see me use a lot on my series because I don't have a chef's knife. This is a paring knife. It's got the flat blade. And it is a little smaller. Some of the bigger vegetables, meats, I have to use the larger one like this. But the paring knife is really good for peeling. If like you have to peel a potato and you don't want to invest in a peeler. You can mince things better with this, garlic, onions, anything you're trying to finely chop and finely dice. You can use the smaller version. It's a lot easier. It's really good for fruits, vegetables. You can use it on meats. I wouldn't recommend using it on meats just because most meats are going to be bigger than this blade can fit. So it's definitely, I really enjoy the smaller knife, like I said, because I just don't like using those bigger knives. But this one you'll see me use a lot. The next thing it comes with, which is very important, a lot of people don't realize it, are kitchen shears. Now, they look just like regular scissors. As a matter of fact, I see videos all the time of people using regular scissors in the kitchen, which is fine if that's all you use it for, is in the kitchen. Don't use scissors that you're using to cut open boxes, cut paper up with, anything like that in the kitchen. You can contaminate your food. Your food can contaminate other materials. So the reason why I like that this set came with some kitchen shears is because it's just a nice reminder to only use these scissors for the kitchen, nothing else. Plus, they're sharper. They are a little sturdier. You can wash them. I wash these all the time and they're not rusted. So definitely a pair of kitchen shears if you are... So I like to use kitchen shears just to open packages, mostly, of food. Like I said, if you're opening up a packet of chicken, raw chicken, with these kitchen shears, and you don't clean them or anything else, and you start cutting other things, you can contaminate the things that you're cutting. So, like I said, you don't have to have kitchen shears specifically. It does come in handy if you are cutting meats. If you want to cut vegetables, they'll last longer. And like I said, you can wash them, do whatever you need to do with them, and they're a lot more sturdy than just like a regular pair of house scissors. It does also come with a knife sharpener. Not fully 100% confident with using this thing, but it came with it. We also have this huge butcher's knife for chopping like bigger vegetables, meats, bigger meats, that sort of thing. And then it comes with a larger serrated knife for loaves of bread, anything you need to saw into that is larger. I don't use that one very often. And it also comes with a set of steak knives, so that's handy. So like I said, if you can afford to, definitely get the knife set that comes with different types of knives, preferably with kitchen shears. If you can't, though, invest in a chef's knife. And I would definitely invest in some kitchen shears, or at least some scissors that you only use for the kitchen. Okay, the next thing is cutting boards. What are knives without cutting boards? I would recommend, and I think if you look up any type of chef rules per se, I would recommend 2 different colors for your cutting boards, okay? One, preferably, you would use only for vegetables and fruits. One, you would use only for meats, seafoods, that sort of thing. You can flip them over and use the other side, So if you can only afford one, then that's okay, I suppose. But it's best if you have two and two different colors, so you remember which one's for your meat, which one's for your vegetables. And you can sanitize them. You're gonna wash them after every use and everything. But because cutting boards typically have grooves in them, unless you get the wooden kind, they just don't always come as clean as you need them to come when you're dealing with different types of foods. So there is a chance for cross-contamination, and you don't want to do that. So I would definitely get two different colors if you can. These are just cheap. They're not like super crazy or anything like that. They're not expensive. So if you can get two, maybe if they're sold in a pack of two, that would be good. Just something so that you can cut on. It makes things so much easier. You can always use a disposable plate or a regular plate. I don't like doing that because you do run the risk of cutting the plate in half. But you know, if you don't have any other options, you know, you got to do what you got to do. So, but if you can get at least one cutting board, I would definitely recommend it. So the next important thing that you definitely need to get are utensils. So if you can only afford a couple at a time, that's fine. The ones you need the most are a big spatula, definitely a big spatula, a spoon, just a regular spoon to stir soups with, that sort of thing, and a slotted spoon. I recommend the slotted spoon for if you're doing vegetables and a lot of water or broth. You don't want to pick all that broth up and dump it on your plate. You're going to want to strain it some, and this comes in handy to have the slotted spoon. Now you notice all of these have rubber or silicone at the ends of them because I have all nonstick pans and pots and casserole dishes and baking sheets. I use nonstick. I prefer it to stainless steel. And if you're a new chef, if you're new to cooking, get nonstick because it's so much easier. Because stainless steel, the way that it conducts heat and the way that the surface of it works, you can easily burn stuff. You can easily get stuff stuck to the pan. They're so much harder to clean, and that sort of thing. So I would definitely recommend nonstick if you're new to cooking, or honestly, I would recommend it even if you've been cooking for a while, just because it's so much easier to use. It is a little more difficult to get a good sear in a nonstick pan and pot and that sort of thing, but honestly, in my opinion, that's not a big deal for me. You can still sear food in a nonstick pan. It just takes a little bit longer. But it's honestly, I would go nonstick 100% for anybody. What a lot of people don't know is you do not use stainless steel utensils on nonstick. The reason why is because the stainless steel will take the cover, the inside, the coating that makes it nonstick, it removes that. The stainless steel does. And so what you end up with is after a little while, you no longer have you no longer have a nonstick pan. You'll notice scratches on the inside of your pan. Things are going to start sticking to it more often. And not only that, but if it's removing the layer of nonstick from your pan, where do you think that layer is going? It's going into your food, and you're going to ingest it. I don't know what nonstick pans are made of. I don't know if there's chemicals involved, but honestly, if I'm cooking on something metal, I don't want any of it in my stomach. So when you use nonstick anything, and I do recommend that, you definitely want to make sure that all of your utensils are either silicone, plastic, whatever they make this stuff out of, but nothing stainless steel. I see people all the time using forks, like forks that you eat with, stainless steel forks, in their pans, and that's not good. You shouldn't ever do that if you're using a non-stick. So, it costs, honestly, you can go to the dollar store and get utensils. They're not super expensive. You can go to Walmart, Family Dollar, and get a set of them. How long they will end up lasting you, I don't know. But it's definitely preferable than using anything stainless steel on your nonstick pans. Another thing that helps out are tongs. Again, you see the tips of them are silicone. So a lot of people I notice use forks when they're like flipping bacon over, when they're flipping chicken over. Sometimes I see people use forks when they're scrambling eggs. Please don't do that. These will help immensely. Trust me, get these. You can easily grab your chicken and flip it over, grab your bacon strips, pick them up, flip them over with these. That's what they're meant for. You can grab things out of hot boiling water with these. Definitely use tongs as opposed to a stainless steel fork that's going to ruin your pan, and make sure they're the tongs with silicone on them to avoid ruining your pan. Now, the ones I have, I can pull out so that when I store them, they stay closed. And then when I get ready to use them, I push this part back in and they open. They're not expensive. I think I got these for free from something I signed up for. I didn't pay for them. I don't think they're expensive though. They will save you the hassle, number one, of if you're not comfortable using a spatula to flip certain things, they will save you hassle. And they're better than using a stainless steel fork that's going to scratch up your nonstick pots and pans, and possibly baking sheets and casserole dishes. So definitely tongs, lifesavers. So the next thing, and this is an optional buy. I know I couldn't afford one for a while when I first started cooking. I had to wait. So it's definitely not something you have to have, but it comes in handy so much later on in life. If you can afford to get one, is a Dutch oven. Don't judge the inside of my Dutch oven. It's clean. I just use it a lot. And I'll tell you why. It's because of what you can do with it that makes it so amazing. So Dutch ovens are typically cast iron, and you can see around the edges that black, that's cast iron. And on the inside is an enamel. And that enamel helps make it a little more non-stick. It's not all the way non-stick. So you do have to be careful with it. You have to make sure you use oil, cooking spray, butter, whatever it is, on the inside of it to make sure that your meat, your vegetables, whatever you're making in here isn't sticking. But it's a lot easier with the enamel as opposed to just using a plain cast iron skillet, where if you don't know what you're doing with a cast iron skillet, you will burn things, you will get them stuck to your pan. So that's again why I always say you should use nonstick if you're not familiar with cooking. But this just makes things so much easier. So cast iron, the way it conducts heat is it conducts heat all on the inside of this. You can make a chili in here, a stew. It's going to boil faster. And it's hefty enough that you can put it in the oven. You pop your top on it. You can make bread. Line it with some paper. What's it called? Like wax paper, or there's another type of paper. I don't know why I'm forgetting it. But anyways, you can line it with the cooking paper, pop that top on it, put your bread in there, you know, and put it in the oven, and it's fine. It'll come right out. I love using my Dutch oven when I'm making gravies or thick sauces because I can use my whisk in there better. You definitely have to stay on top of it. That's with any gravy or sauce, especially a thick one that has a thickening agent, which we'll go over when we start cooking. But you definitely, this makes it just so much easier. I can use my whisk. I don't have to worry about how thick it's getting, if it's too much for my pan. And I know that the heat is going to conduct throughout the pot so that everything is evenly heated. Again, it's not something you have to have. If you need to wait, I know this one I got ages ago, maybe 10, 11 years ago, I got it. And it was about $100. You definitely, if you're going to invest in one, I would definitely say don't skimp on the money. Go ahead and save up and buy a decent one. Or, you know, maybe somebody can get it for you as a birthday gift, Christmas gift. If you're getting married, as a wedding gift, you know, something like that. But definitely don't skimp if you are going to get one. You know, put a decent amount of money into it so that it lasts you. Like I said, I got this maybe 10 or 11 years ago, and while the bottom of it has seen better days, it's a little seasoned, that's all. It's okay. You know, it's lasted me. I can still use it. The enamel doesn't wear off. So I don't have to worry about, you know, the enamel chipping off into the food or anything like that. We're good. Okay, so this next item is, again, optional. You don't have to have it. It's not necessary. But it definitely makes life easier, is a roasting pan. So this one's got like a little design on the bottom. Don't really care what the design is. It's not a big deal. The roasting pan comes in handy if you're doing roasted chicken, pot roast, Cornish hens, you know, anything like that you need to have in the oven for a long period of time. And you want to make sure it's kind of closely enclosed in here because you want those juices to, again, with the word juices, I hope you guys don't hate that word, but the juices, if you're adding broth, water, or anything like that, meats a lot of the time create their own juices. You want that to kind of be able to all muddle in there and stay together and steam and create nice tender chicken roast, a nice tender pot roast. You know, anything you're making in here, it's going to keep everything together. It's going to heat evenly in the oven. It's heavy duty. I don't even remember where I got this from. I may have gotten it from my mom. But I've had it for forever. I use it frequently. And it just comes in handy because you can fit a decent sized chicken in there. I can fit 2 Cornish hens in here. You can get a nice sized pot roast and like the potatoes and onions and stuff like that in here. And it'll all fit and roast evenly together and become delicious. So again, you don't have to have it. They do have disposable roasting pans that you can get at the grocery store. Again, Like I said, I don't think they're super expensive. If you don't think you're going to use it, get the disposable one. Some of those roasting pans can, even the disposable ones, the bigger you get, the more expensive they're going to get. For Thanksgiving, we all get that huge roasting pan for our turkeys, and it's like $8 for one of them, depending on how big you get. But, doing that a few times, it's, getting that big roasting pan, unless you're just doing it once a year, $8 over the course of a year, even if you make 5 roasted chickens, that's $40. I'm quite certain you could, invest that same money into a more permanent roasting pan. And these do come with lids that you put on top. I just didn't bring it out for the purposes of showing you what the inside of it looks like, but they have lids. They're usually domed, not flat, but they have a nice dome on them so that you can roast your chicken and you don't have to worry about the lid smushing it or anything like that. So it's, again, optional, but makes life easier. So, okay, so we're coming down to the end of our list here. And the next thing I highly recommend you getting, especially if you're going to be someone who follows recipes, is a measuring cup or cups. You can get a set of them. And measuring spoons. So a lot of recipes that you'll find are going to say 1 teaspoon of some sort of seasoning, or 2 cups of some sort of liquid, or something like that. You don't want to eyeball it, because a lot of recipes were created with the measurements that they have for a reason. So these make life so much easier if you have a set of spoons, definitely. You don't have to have the set of cups and a measuring cup. You can get one or the other. I like both because I do so much cooking and I do need to measure a lot. This comes in handy when I'm measuring a lot of liquid, like, more than a cup's worth of liquid, or if I have to measure out flour, like, more than a cup's worth of flour. This comes in handy when I'm doing something small, like cheese, or if I just need a cup of something, I can grab this, scoop it, or pour it, level it off, and I know I've got a cup and I'm good. So I have both I have both a cup and the set of cups and the spoons. You definitely don't have to get it if you can only afford or don't want to clutter up your kitchen a ton. Just one, I would say, gets a set of spoons and a cup. At least a 2-cup measuring cup. This is 4. I do also have a 2-cup and a 1-cup if I need something smaller. But definitely a cup, at least 2, if you can get a 4-cup one. It comes in handy when you're measuring a large quantity of liquids or flour or a large quantity of anything. The 4-cup one comes in handy. But you can also just do, I would say, at least a 2-cup. Okay, and the last thing I would highly recommend you having, it's almost a necessity, I think, is a very large size bowl. I have several bowls, bigger than this even, and it's so necessary because a lot of times you'll see recipes or you'll want to try things that's going to tell you to whisk the ingredients together before you put it into a pan. If you're doing like a meatloaf or burgers, you're going to want to mix it with your seasonings, your egg, whatever, in a bowl beforehand, then form the patties, then put it in your pan. And like I said, if you're doing a recipe that requires you to mix ingredients together first and then pour it into a pan, or anything where you're going to need to mix it first before you put it on the heat, a big bowl is going to help. Yeah, you could probably get away with kitchen bowls. I wouldn't recommend it just because there are going to be instances where you're going to need something bigger than a kitchen bowl. Like a cereal bowl or something like that. You're going to need something bigger than that. If you're not going to do a lot of baking, if you're going to do a lot of baking, I recommend several big bowls. But if you're just doing cooking, not venturing into the world of baking, you still are going to want to have a big bowl on hand for instances where you have to mix something, sauces, vegetables, even if you're making salad, like a big salad. A bowl this size really helps you get this stuff for your salad in there and mixed all together so that it's not just all sitting on top of the lettuce. You can really get in there with some tongs or forks or whatever and mix everything together. So a big bowl, in my opinion, is necessary. I guess it's not something you have to have, but I would definitely recommend it. I'm sure there's quite a few things that I'm not mentioning, mostly because a lot of things are nice to have, but you don't have to have them. For instance, a zester, a peeler, a juicer, stuff like that. They're great to have, and if you find them and they're not expensive, go ahead and get them. Add them to your collection. I literally have one of everything in my kitchen just because I've accumulated stuff over the years. And, I'm an avid cooker. I enjoy cooking and trying new things. And I don't want to be in a scenario where it'd be nice to have an immersion blender and I don't have one, which I do have one. Or a food processor. That would make life so much easier when it comes to grinding stuff up or anything like that, and I don't have one. I do have a food processor. A crock pot where you want to cook something slow and you don't want to put it in the oven and heat the whole house up and get everything all hot. You can sit it and forget it and move on with life, and you don't have to worry about it. These are all things that are great to have. They come in handy. They make life easier and probably make you want to cook a little bit more. But again, you don't have to have these things in order to be a good cook. So just grab your necessities, your pots, pans, cookie sheet or baking sheet, however you want to call it, casserole dish, and knives. You have to have knives and cutting board. And, grab your basics and then accumulate the rest of the stuff along the way. And, you'll be a great chef without all those extra things that are great to have in your kitchen, but again, not necessary. There are workarounds. There are other things you can do. That's what I love about cooking so much is it's so versatile. You can mix flavors, ingredients. Cooking for the most part is not an exact science. I mean, you do have to have your internal temperatures correct for meats. If you want something to taste good, you're going to want to season it properly. there is a science to it when it comes to how long you cook chicken for as opposed to meat, ground beef or something like that, but when it comes to flavors and the ingredients and that sort of thing, you can kind of do your own thing. There's nothing that says you can't take risk and make it your own dish, So that's what I love about it. I just love trying different things and, you know, seeing what I can make and how flavorful I can make it. And I enjoy seeing other people eat my food and tell me how much they love it. It's one of the best things about cooking. So I really hope through this series, through this channel, I can excite you guys to cook more and try new things and just learn about the wonderful world of cooking. So until next episode, thank you guys so much for your time. Please subscribe, comment, like, do the notification thing, whatever you want to do. Is fine. I just hope you guys come back for the next episode. Thank you. Bye.